So from Duber on Twitch, will Russia ever be able to stop the pollution coming from Russia? Can Navalny help fix something like that?
Well, not from jail, but no. Oh boy. Okay. Russia's problem, as we've discussed today, is that they have one way of making money, and that is to rip stuff out of the ground. And in order to do that, they create pollution. They do not care. They also have a different perspective on man's relationship with nature.
Hmm.
It's not. Boy, this really opens up a whole can of worms. It's not that
The
it's
stream apparently
adversarial.
died.
Yeah, I got it. I
Sorry.
fixed it. No,
Okay.
we're good.
Okay.
Russians' perspective on nature is they are very much in concert but adversarial.
Hmm.
It's really nuanced and complex, but they don't they are not worried about, and also there's fatalism involved in the sense that they don't care what happens tomorrow as long as today they can eke out an existence. So they don't look at generally, really broad strokes. They generally don't look at conservation the way that we do. That is, there are changes happening in Russia. There are those who are very much concerned about
Hmm.
conservationism, but the overwhelming attitude towards nature is that it is an adversarial relationship.
Right.
Although we are part of nature, we must dominate nature, and it's part of the whole power structure, the whole perception of power. So, they don't. No, I don't see them doing anything unless there's a major cultural change within Russia about the damage that they're doing to the ecological system.
Yeah, they're not going to change that anytime soon. There was basically the relationship with dragons culturally is often representative of how people feel about nature, and there was a whole big thing about the Russians and the Chinese had a very distinct culturally a long time ago, distinct difference about how dragons were treated. The Chinese viewed dragons as in the earth and therefore don't wake up the sleeping dragon. Try to treat the earth and your presence here as kind of, you fit in so you don't wake up the dragon and he wrecks everything because they mean well and they're good things and they're what keeps the weather moving the way it's supposed to and they're good, benevolent monsters in some ways, but they're good and benevolent. The Russians always viewed them as something that had to be slaughtered. That they take
Subdued.
that you subdue it.
Somebody wins, somebody loses.
Yes, they take your woman, they take your gold, blah blah blah. The interesting thing is, post-Soviet, the Chinese adopted a more Russian view of dragons. So, soft culture wise on holidays and stuff, they still view them, with dragon dances and the like, the way they used to. But their environmental reaction to what that analogy means is now much closer to what the Russians do. That's where the breed, and that's a Soviet or era thing. Kill your
Well,
culture.
and we've talked about this in the past. I mean, Russia's I think there's so much about Russia and America that we have more in common with one another than we do in many ways with Europeans. And there's a divergence point between the cultures in that we forged into nature. And because of that, we have a kind of an optimistic outlook on man's relationship with nature and just in our relationship with power and how we live our lives. Whereas Russia fought its way out of nature, and the first thing they do is build a fortress and a Kremlin, and they always are aware that the wolf is at the door. They are deathly afraid of nature. Every fairy tale, every story they have about nature is that nature's going to come and kill you.
Right. There's also I would also say there's also a parallel, or a divergence in that parallel, I would say, between how Russians view we make a distinction in the West between nature as containing trees, which are good, and smallpox, which is bad. Russia looks at both trees and smallpox with equally. Trees are in the way of our progress, and smallpox can be used as a weapon to get rid of the people who are in the way of our other progress. All of it is commodified, and that's one of the reasons why I think they got along. Putin and Trump allegedly got along so well. Because again, they have a transactional relationship with nature,
Yeah.
and nature owes them money.
Power. The idea of what power is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and whereas in the West because we have a mixed culture, we have a mixed understanding of those kind of things, and we think like in general, more trees good. Because we've recognized that we get this free benefit from the existence of these things. We don't have to, force that. It's part of what's naturally there, which is much more akin to sort of an Eastern view, Eastern in terms of Asian, which I always think it's funny to call like Russia the East in some ways, since they're so, right wing in many ways and conservative in their viewpoint. It always seems very like hyper West in some ways. Not a
lot of Taoism in Russia.
Exactly right. So we got a few more minutes left. Let's get a couple more questions in.
Johnny?
Yeah, everybody's wondering how is Malcolm Nance?
Mm-hmm.
Malcolm's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Malcolm's fine. Malcolm is doing what Malcolm does. I will not go into detail about what Malcolm is up to. I had dinner with him recently.
Mm-hmm.
He's doing good. He's he's doing what he is meant to be doing. Malcolm is a warrior. He's gonna fight a war. He is fighting a war.
Right.
So, but he is safe. He is well.
He's in his element.
That's about all I'm going to say, because I don't want to put him at risk.
Mm-hmm.
And have you talked with the World Kitchen while you're out there?
The World Kitchen? No, I haven't, but I intend to.
Mm-hmm.
I want to reach out to them. They're doing, amazing work.
Yep.
Bless their hearts. I have spoken to a lot of people who are doing humanitarian help here. Irwin Redliner, for example, and I are working on a couple of things. I'm trying to help him in his efforts to help the children of this country. There are lots of people doing a lot of really, really good things in this country and trying to help as best they can. And, if I can help, I will.
Right.
In any way that I can. So,
That's great.
I haven't spoken. I want to, though.
Okay,
That's all the questions I've got at the moment.
Oh, right on. Cool. Because I have a couple. The main one being is the howitzers and the HIMARS are starting to arrive, if not have already. Germany just while they and France have both been playing carrot with Putin allegedly on phone calls, are also playing stick, because the French just sent it's like 18 or 20 howitzers. Half of them are on trucks that can be moved super quick. And the Germans, and this is new, just sent 7 howitzers themselves. That's an enormous amount of artillery for the space that we're talking about, even still. I mean, they still need more, I would argue, because they don't all last very long, and, they've got a limited lifespan, especially when they're being used regularly.
And when they're being attacked.
Yeah, exactly, when they get destroyed, which is,
they're going to be destroyed. They're going to be in combat.
That's right.
The Germans and the Europeans, the major European powers have promised a lot, but they haven't delivered. That's starting to change. We are actually starting to see these systems physically show up. I mean, I saw a thing earlier today about Ukrainians being really critical of Scholz in Germany about him promising the world, but not really actually ever delivering. Well, that's starting to change,
right?
And it's interesting to see what's happening out in the East, because the Russians are throwing. I mean, if they're not throwing everything that they have at that pocket around Severodonetsk, then what are they doing, and why aren't they throwing more at it? And the summation is that maybe they can't, and that may be an indication that they are getting close to being a spent force.
That's right.
And,
Okay.
So we'll have to see what. Look, we're in a very precarious moment in this war.
That's right.
But
And it needs to go forward. We're running out of time. Greatly appreciate. That's it. We're squealed in there. Thank you, Chicago.
Thanks,
This is the Hal Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide. We'll see you guys next Saturday. We're here every week. Thanks so much. Take care of yourself and take care of somebody else. And we'll see you soon.
Bye.
Hold on, chat room. We'll. Thanks, kids. Sorry about I had to the feeds were dropping on Restream for some reason. That's part of why the audio was out of sync and other stuff. So I had to basically like flip the breakers on each one and turn them back on. So that was the breakdown that everybody saw in there. That's just it's one of the only solutions available to me while the software is running, because if I restart the software, all the audio going to Chicago because of Johnny and Philip gets cut off. In the old days, I could shut that down because you guys would be sourced through another thing, but not this way. So it narrows it. Yeah. So like again, if you liked already, like it twice, like it 2 times. Like me 2 times, babe. So the one of the things I looked up, and before I let you go, was in in looking at, I'm fascinated by the cult of Putin right now, considering where he is and what he's been sending. Instead of showing up at stuff, they're sending written messages read by somebody, which is never good. I mean, it's and because of the history of the Soviet Union, like the BS, it's starting to look like Trump's COVID, where they had him with his shirt open, signing blank paper. Remember, like, it's like he was filling out, it was like, in some ways,
exhausting hike up to the rotunda or whatever. That's fine.
It's worth it. I took every step. It was easy. And for the record, though, he's the kind of dude who would be huffing and puffing like that, even if he didn't have COVID. But also the fact that the blank paper, everybody was like, how stupid. He's filling out blank paper. I'm like, you do realize that there are Republicans around who are like, well, he signed it already. We'll just fill in the executive order we want after. Like, just sign some stuff. We'll make up what we want you to have said after. Putin was talking about the concept of sovereignty, that there are this is for all the folks that are like America, my colonial power and my colonizer, for all that nonsense in the modern era, talking about like the 1800s are today, and like we haven't changed since then, and somehow because we used to and we don't, that when other people currently do, it's samey same, is just goofy. But he literally came out and said there are 2 types of countries in the world. There are powerful countries and there are colonies. And if you are reliant, and he means anybody who's got an IMF loan, by the way, if you are reliant on any of these small, bigger countries, you are a colony of theirs, and they get to tell you what to do.
Yeah.
And he's speaking not only on his behalf as to the Russian satellite states, but also to all the Chinese states as well on their behalf. That's what he's saying. It's Jeff Goldblum's monologue in Deep Cover. There's no blacks and whites anymore. There's rich people and poor people. Right. We're both rich, so we're on the same side. And that's what he's essentially saying to Xi Jinping, and to some degree, saying that to these little states, you don't have any friends in UK or in America, because they, no matter what they say, they think the way I do, and we absolutely do not.
No, because you have to. Mm-hmm. So Russia has a concept of power that is a binary system, and there's it's nulls and odds. It's nulls and ones. There is no in between. There's no win-win solution. Somebody always wins. Somebody always loses. Mm-hmm. And
Mm-hmm.
I can't stress this enough. This isn't just a fight over territory.
Right.
This isn't just a fight about autocracy and democracy. The Russians really do want to spread what they call the Ruski Mir,
Yeah, the
the
Russian
Russian
world.
world.
Yeah.
And it's they see the world, and they talk about us being naive. That you hear it all the time when they talk about Americans. They say America is a naive power. And
Right.
what they mean by that is that we do not accept the idea that power in and of itself is an answer to itself. That if you have power, you use power, and that makes it okay. That we have things like inalienable rights. We have things like the rule of law.
Yeah.
And they see that as false. They see that as a charade that
And naive to even try.
naive to even try. Exactly. And so I think that is appealing to a lot of, and I think that appeals to a lot of people in the West, actually. There are elements within our, that's why we're constantly fighting this battle.
Yeah.
Why our democracy, why our American experiment is an ongoing experiment, because we have people within our own country, Laura Ingram, who, it's not about trying to be better, trying to live in a more fair and free society, which doesn't just see people as pawns in some sort of power game, that you do have a right, because you are born a human being,
Right.
to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That their argument, the Russian argument, is that is false, that is pretense, and that ultimately every time it just falls back on power.
Right.
And so,
why would you ever give any away? Because the second you give it away, the wolf will take it from you. It will take it from your plate. I mean, it is effectively, I would argue that it is a product of forced atheism in China currently that came from the Soviet model as well, that turned a lot of the folks there over a few generations into, cutthroat Darwinists, meaning that why would I share food with you if it's a calorie I'm not getting? In a zero-sum world, what point is there?
How have I ever told you my Russian oligarch and the Rolex story?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Gather around, kids. The Russian oligarch and the hold on, let me get my blanket. And the Rolex. Yeah.
Yeah. So here's the story. It was in the 90s when I was living in Moscow. There was an old joke about how the two oligarchs meet on the street, and one oligarch says, "Look at my new Rolex. Look how amazing this Rolex is. It's diamond encrusted. It goes down to 50 meters underwater. It's amazing. It's great. It's fantastic." The other oligarch says, "Yeah, no, that's a great Rolex. How much did you pay for it?" And the first oligarch says, "I paid $150,000 for this watch." And the second oligarch says, "You idiot. There's a place around the corner that sells them for $250,000.
Right.
The point being,
that's okay. It's bling culture.
Yeah, you always have to be exhibiting power. You always have to be using power.
Right.
Because if you don't, somebody is going to take it from you.
Yes.
And it's brutal. It's a perspective on life and on human civilization,
right,
that is absolutely brutal. Which is why I firmly believe they have to be stopped, and why we have to draw the line in the sand here. Because if they do, if that mentality takes over the world, which is really what they want to do,
right?
Make no mistake about it.
Yeah.
This is not the end.
No.
They want that mentality to exist around the world because that allows them to operate the way that they want to operate. And well,
it's one of the reasons why we have to be careful never, to not be the bully and not act in excess, not just because it's wrong, but because the other big monsters in the world that are on a relatively, close level with us will use that as an excuse to move even closer to their baser desires, which is exactly what happened. You could argue that what triggered the long-term idea that, oh, we can actually do this was Bush in Iraq. That there was an idea that,
Exactly.
they were always wanting to do it, but could we do it? It is always a question. Can you pull it off? You don't want to swing and miss to some degree. And the birth of the idea that maybe we can start on the process of Georgia, Chechnya, Ukraine, Latvia, Lithuania. Then we'll talk about Finland. Then we'll talk about Poland. All that kind of stuff. Like the possibility of that
Well,
is
it's also a global worldview. That's how they want the world to operate. They
Right.
don't want, and, I know we've discussed this in the past, is the fact that I actually for all the years that I spent in Russia, I had this argument with my Russian friends about them. Ultimately, your court system is only used to enrich the powerful. They would say,
Right.
At the end of the day, you say there's international law, and then you go and you break it by invading Iraq. They point to all these things where it's like you say you believe in these things, and then you break those rules. And you know what? For years and years, I was like, well, damn it, they're right. Damn it, they have a point. But then I realized that it is in the effort of trying not to be that way. That's where the priority should be. If we just allow ourselves to fall into being what that kind of a world is, where power is just, that's it.
Right.
Yeah, I got power and you don't, and you're screwed. Then where does that lead us? And I
Right.
don't want to live in a world like that. I mean, it's the Abraham Lincoln quote that I oftentimes reflect upon, where he says, if the know-nothings, the Trumpists of the day, had their way, we started as a country saying all men are created equal. If the know-nothings have their way, it would be all men are created equal except for
some animals are more equal than others.
Yeah,
right.
exactly. Exactly.
And Carl had a question about it. It goes, a friend alleged that the Azov Brigade committed murders of ethnic Russians in the Donbass, and that led to Russia's invasion. Is there any truth to that? A friend of his said that. The short answer is no. The long answer is that the Azov Battalion itself was not necessarily up in the Donbass. They are named after the southern area where they are. So the shelling that's been going on back and forth between these separatist regions which are just Russian satellites trying to carve off parts of Ukraine and give it to Russia. This is not separatism. This is not even the stupid talk. This isn't even the Confederacy. Imagine the U.S. Civil War. If the Confederacy had declared that they were aligning with with King George and they were aligning with the UK, with Great Britain, with England, and that they were going to rejoin with them once they were free of this tyrannical, colonial government that had been, created as a separate group, and that they pretended that, and that at the same time, England and the King were saying, no, we're just helping them. They want to be their own. The Confederacy is its own state. It's going to be its own state. And then midway through the Civil War, or even weeks into it, the King said, actually, you know what? We've talked to them, and they're going to be part of England again once we finish. This is going to be English territory. And the people fighting it said, yeah, that's exactly what we want. You wouldn't view that as a civil war anymore. You would view that as an invasion using sympathizers. And especially if think of it also, to make the analogy full, if England had spent the decades after the Revolutionary War moving, British citizens, like English citizens, to the south of America, the southern part of America, on purpose, those people taking businesses because they magically had money because the king was backing them, stealing the businesses, stealing the land, buying the property, and then brooming people out. And the people who lived there, the Southerners who lived there, maybe they moved, north, or to live with relatives. They moved to Michigan, Wisconsin, and places like that over time. And eventually, the South is full of everybody's got an English accent, and you're like, wait a second.
Look, okay, so the war that's been going on out in the Donbass since 2014 has been disproportionately harsh on people of Russian ethnicity, but that's because that's who lives out there.
Mm-hmm.
That's the dominant ethnic group out in the
Yeah.
Donbass. But there are also Ukrainians out there. And look, when they talk about war crimes, when the Russians talk about the war crimes that were happening out in Donetsk and in Lugansk, there is no evidence, there is no reliable evidence that war crimes were happening in the Donbass. There was a war in the Donbass,
Right.
and
And
there were casualties in that war. Is it possible that certain excesses happened, that crimes happened? Absolutely, but not as a look. There was shelling, there was fighting. People in cities and villages out in the Donbass died. Civilians died.
right.
Absolutely, 100%. Ethnic Ukrainians and ethnic Russians. But the predominant ethnicity out in the Donbass is Russian. So this is just another way for the Kremlin to justify what they're doing, and they don't even believe it themselves.
Right.
That they instigated the whole separatist movement out in the Donbass. They're the ones that screamed bloody murder when there was a ruling in the Ukrainian Rada that Ukrainian would be the first language of all primary schools and grade schools and things like that. They use it as a pretext. It's not real. It
Right.
is an excuse for them to carve off a section of Ukraine and to also instigate a larger war. They've always wanted a larger war with Ukraine in general.
Right.
And it's just they were one way or another. They were going to expand this war. They were either going to expand it to get their land bridge. They were either going to expand it to destroy the government in Kiev. But one way or the other, they were always going to push beyond just the Donbass. But yes, ethnic Russians have been dying in Donbass for a long time.
Carl says, for the record, his friend does not believe the Russian invasion was justified, just that they had heard that was going on. Now, there's been a battle going on since 2014, since Russia claimed those territories, started flooding the green shirts, their kind of
little green men.
Yeah, the little green men, their shock troops into there, and then seizing the territory in the same way that they broomed the Turks out of Crimea years ago. And so there's a lot of ethnic Russians in Crimea because they intentionally moved them in after they moved other people out. And if you want to look at the plan that's being played out, look at what the Chinese are doing with Han Chinese versus every other Chinese ethnic group in the country, especially the Uyghurs. And as far as the border issue we're talking about,
if you really want to get cynical about it, and you want to go, do a deep dive, you could argue the whole Holodomor, where they killed upwards of 7 million Ukrainians,
starved them to death. Right.
One of the worst crimes of the 20th century. They starved millions of people to death.
Right. And that
arguably, the case has been made that was in order to sweep Ukraine of Ukrainians, so that they could then fill it with Russians.
Yes. It goes back to Braveheart. The idea of the problem with Scotland is it's full of Scots. That's been the plan for a long time. You got to understand that the strategies and resources of old were limited. Obviously, you're not talking about a time of howitzers and heat-seeking missiles and the like. But some of the strategies, because land and territory and human feet haven't changed all that much in tens of thousands of years, still work and work in concert with the new stuff. A lot of civilized countries, and even in their most uncivilized things, in moments in their histories, in modern societies, are using the technology singularly. They have given up on the old, whereas Russians hearkening about drawing and quartering people, and wouldn't it be nice to go back to that? No civilized country in the world is genuinely saying that or joking about it on their news channels. The other thing I would say is that the other conversation I saw. What's happening? You got an air raid?
Yeah. It's okay. Don't worry about it.
Well, I'm going to worry about you a little bit, but that's definitely part of it.
Happens pretty regularly. It's just annoying.
Well, fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this is what it sounds like. This is what it sounds like, guys.
Mm-hmm.
This is what Ukrainians live through on a daily basis. So you tell me what's going on in this guy.
Right, exactly.
All these people that are oh, let's just appease Russia. Let's just
Yeah, just give them a little bit, and they'll go back to sleep. Yeah, give the bear a meal, and he'll take a nap. And we'll worry about it when he wakes up. That's the other
argument. The argument that ticks me off as well about they're just prolonging the inevitable.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then, then a lot more Russians are going to die. Why aren't you calling on Russia to leave the country? Because if they just keep fighting, if they would just leave, then Russian soldiers would stop dying, right?
Right.
So just leave.
Right. Well, the other thing too is that Russians are not hearing this every day.
No,
they are not, and not even in the border cities with Ukraine. Nope. And that in and of itself, I think, solidifies what's going on here. That the Russians, for all their pretense about that NATO expansion and all that, which is garbage, they're not even considering it anymore. Like that's a dead talking point. We're already past that one.
The Great thing. Peter the Great thing is just. I mean, when Putin said that, it was
come on.
We're just admitting that this has nothing to do with NATO.
That's right. And there's not a single city in Russia that I'm aware of right at this moment, even with this going on, even with America giving HIMARS to fire upon the Russians that are invading the place, that there's not a single border city in Russia right up to the edge of Ukraine that is running air raid sirens regularly to protect them. They don't hear it. They don't. And you're in the western part of the country right now. You're center west. That's away from the front line. He's not. Just for people that don't know or came in late. Phil is in Lviv, and that's in the center west part of the country. That's it's closer to Poland than it is to Russia, and Moldova,
Romania,
right. So, but the Russians on that side, who are right up against the actual battle, are not hearing this every day. They're not hearing these air raid sirens, and that, I think, more than anything, is indicative of what the reality of whatever the story that Russia wants to paint over it. This reality cuts against the story that they're telling, and that needs to be a constant
100%.
reminder.
100%. And there will, when they talk about the Ukrainians are going to get weapons that allow them to strike into Russia. Well, that's true, but they're not. I firmly believe they will not do that. Mm-hmm. I firmly believe they will not use those weapons to strike into Russia for a number of different reasons. One, there are an awful lot of things blowing up in Russia already.
On their own, right?
On their own. Which is highly suspicious.
Amazing.
Secondly, the Ukrainians will not use the weapons that the West gives them to strike into Russia because they don't want that flow of weapons to stop.
Right.
And then in addition to that, I think inevitably there is going to be something that blows up in Russia, and the Russians will say, it's going to happen.
Right.
We should just expect it. Just expect it.
That story is going to be told.
At some point in the next month, something's going to go boom inside of Russia, and the Russians are going to say,
"They did."
Hey, the West, yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. And firstly, I don't believe it'll be true. Secondly, it will be because the Russians want to use that narrative.
Yeah. And by the way, the West has been really good, I think. I'm trying to, again, leverage the audio, guys. It's just the nature of the sources. I apologize.
The alarm stopped.
Yeah, right. That's good. That's good news. I think your mic on there might have been trying to mitigate the sound, and so it lowered your volume a little bit. They have little runners on it. But the fascinating they're I mean they're big fans of false flags over there, and they spread that storyline in American media about our own stuff. A lot of the talking points that Alex Jones uses about false flags or they're right out of the Kremlin. They're literally like direct talking points. I want to let you go, and I know Johnny Million's got to go. And by the way, can we just say for the record, can we take a moment? Johnny Million won his 5K this morning in his age
That's
group.
right. I won my
Well
age group,
done, sir.
the old guy age group.
Yeah, I'm just saying for the record. Come on, look at that. Yeah,
You like that?
yeah.
You like that?
And by the way,
I'm hungry.
he does this whole show. Yeah, he's got to go eat. He does this whole show having run a 5K quite often. If not a 5K, then at least his prep runs and stuff. So congratulations, Johnny Million, and we are very proud of you. And I want to make sure that that's put in there. Also, Philip, let's schedule Wednesday for my morning show if you'd like to come on, and we'll do a midweek. We'll specifically schedule it this week. So Wednesday, so everybody who is watching the show, Wednesday we're gonna have a midweek episode where Philip and I can talk and take questions and discuss the stuff that's going on. It's going to be a busy couple of weeks because the offense, the retaking of all these areas that Russia had taken when they thought they had it good, it has already started. And the weapon systems that the United States has given them have started to arrive over the last week and are being moved to these areas. And it is going to be an enormous shift. It's going to get very noisy this summer. So I want to talk about.
And I will not say more, but I will just tease your audience with saying I might even have a surprise for you.
Oh boy!
On Wednesday.
I have no doubt that you will have a surprise for us. You might just have another surprise, right? You'll have to tune in Wednesday to the morning show. Hal Sparks Mornings Mega Worldwide. It's at 9 o'clock. This is my live stream on Pacific. And then I'll let you guys go. And thanks so much. And also,
one of the highlights of my week reminds me why I'm here, reminds me why I re-up for another 90 days.
Yeah, we appreciate you.
Maybe I get a chance to tell a few people what's going on here.
Yes, you do. And we'll make sure you do. So thanks so much, Philip. Thank you, Johnny Million. You're awesome. Thank you, audience and everybody there. I'm going to let you guys go, and we'll see you guys soon. Signing off for those guys. I'll let them go first. Yes. Slavy Ukraine. Yeah, bye. There they go. Thanks, guys. I will see you guys later on. Cheers. There you go. And yeah, because I know both of them have places to be right now, and like you guys know, I can hang with you guys for a long time, but I don't want to keep him past his bedtime in that regard. And when there's an air raid siren going off in the background, like I kind of want him to go to the basement, but that's just me. Also, I noticed, I'm sorry about the kind of shift in when I had to turn the stream off and on again or whatever, but I want to we had trolls today. We haven't had a good batch of trolls in a long time, and I want to thank them for showing up because they're the ones that expand us in the algorithm more than anybody else. You are the undiscovered country, the territory that broadens us out into the greater internet world. It's a beautiful thing, and I think it's glorious. So thanks. When you guys show up, I know we're starting to make an impact. Because if we're not worth trolls and clickbait spam, we're not measuring up. So it's very good. Yes, it was very exciting on Twitch. That's right. I know that's a new one, Stargal. That's good. Somebody apparently gave them a free subscription. That works for me. B, they don't. I think a lot of. Quit it, Benny Loco. We don't. we enjoy trolls in our area because they have no impact. It's just fun to watch them. It's like watching somebody pick a fight with the air, and they just run into a bar and go, "Put up your dukes," and then they just start going, "Ha ha 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 ha," and then eventually hit themselves in the face and fall over. It's like a dinner theater version of Fight Club that as a one-man show. No trolls here on Facebook. Yeah. Well, that's Dr. Havar. Yeah, troll's gonna troll. It's good. And yes, you can vent. That's all right, Benny Loco. It's true. But it's adorable to watch them try. I guess they have some impact someplace, I suppose. So, anyways, I gotta go. I'm gonna fix lunch for the fam and have a normal day, and then we're going to see. I'm taking my kid to see Jurassic Park tonight because he loves giant dinosaurs, and what's not to like. And that's it. I appreciate you guys. Thank you guys for the support. Thank you guys for being here, for helping me grow the show. It means a lot. Trolls, you too. I thank you for the couple of pennies that you accidentally give me just by being here. It's so fun. I mean, honestly, to take a page out of Trump's book, when you can make money off people that really like you and you're providing a service to them and they appreciate it and they show that appreciation by, Venmoing or subscribing or those kind of things, that's one thing. But when you can make money off of your enemies, when hate watching actually affects your bank account, that's got to be a win. And by the way, I noticed that somebody mentioned, I don't know that I saw what they said, but that they called me a D-list celebrity or whatever. These are, by the way, I mentioned this the other day, didn't I? That we were talking about like the people who call me a BC or a D-list celebrity or actor or whatever, and then also spend their time saying all the A-list celebrities are baby-eating vampire lizard people who eat human milkshakes and drink baby blood or whatever. I'm like, well, shouldn't I be grateful then? Wouldn't B, C, and D make me the working class actor, which would give me some street cred, one would think? And it's certainly, I'm not going to eat a baby to be A-list. I'm just not going to do it. And maybe that's keeping me out of the big time, but I'm okay with that. I just don't understand the crisscross and the how that's supposed to be an insult. No adrenochrome for me. I'm not drinking adrenochrome, even if it gets me in the next Amber Heard film. I know that's one of her prime requests when for her co-stars is they must have adrenochrome on their breath, or she won't even read with them. But I'm not going to do it. You're at least C-list. Thanks, Chris. I am Emmy award-winning television, so that I think I operate in the B+. B-, C+, somewhere in that area. I will not, yeah, but anyways, if A-list means you have to eat a baby, I'm just not gonna do it. So, all right. But I appreciate the trolls coming by to accidentally, C++. That's that's of course the computer language that I'm designed on. Thanks. I just love this. Thanks. You guys. I just love that crisscross in the like insult accidentally. It's like horseshoe theory of right wingers and left wingers when they overlap. There's a version of that with the insult trolls where they literally can't. It's like a double negative. It's like they cancel out their own insult. Anyways, I don't know. The attention. At some point, people are going to recognize, especially the Trump fans who hate me, that if they haven't learned that all press is good press from their dude, and then showing up in my chat to yammer doesn't help us. I don't know how do you put your shoes on without scraping your ears? Okay. Anyways, I adore you guys. I will see you later. Take care of yourself and take care of somebody else. I have to find let's see. I know I have it's funny when I change software all the time because I have limited, it ends up meaning that I have to throw more switches. That's the problem. Sound effects. There's that one. And it's missing. Why is it missing all of a sudden? That's wrong. This is here. Thank you. Thanks very much. Thanks. I know. I appreciate it. I'm great. There was I had the theme song in there at one point, and for some reason it buggered off. Very strange. All right. Well, we'll worry about it later. I'm going to sign off anyways because I went long, and you guys are wonderful, and I'll just see you later. It'll be a clean drop.